Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 11th CWC Youth Forum session. So today we're going to be talking all about stressors impacting the transition from high school to college, and we have our a college admissions counselor here to talk to us about all of that stuff. So we're going to get started with introductions of our youth team. So my name is Kevin. I'm a senior at the University of Nevada in Reno, and I'm dual majoring in biology and nutrition science with plans to pursue a master's degree in food science. So I'm actually going through a little bit of the admissions process myself, but 4 years later and slightly different. I'm really excited to be here to talk about wellness with everyone. And I really love educating others all about wellness practices, specifically with focuses and emphasis on nutrition.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Mehak and I'm a current freshman at San Jose State University pursuing a degree in molecular biology. And I'm very interested in the healthcare field and like to spread awareness about various healthcare topics. And particularly, I just went through the college admission cycle not so long ago. So I do have some idea of what a lot of people are going through, particularly at this time of the year.
And just to touch on our other ambassadors, Vaibhava and Nikita are both seniors in their respective high schools. Neither of them could join us today, unfortunately, but they also help us put on these events, and they will make appearances in future programs moving forward. Yes, so today we're going to be talking all about stress, specifically related to the stress between the transitional period of high school and college.
And so the learning objectives of this session would be learning de-stressing tips, learning how to handle stress between high school and college, and being able to participate in a discussion about reducing stress and wellness in the transition to college.
Perfect. So now I'm going to share my screen and get started with the Kahoot before we introduce our guest speaker. So we're going to get started with our very first question. Why does stress make your heart race? So there are 4 options here. Select the one that you think is correct. It makes your heart's electric system go temporarily haywire. It doesn't make your heart race. It makes your heart pump blood faster to your muscles. It makes your heart constrict blood flow to your muscles. So which one of these do you think is the answer? All right, so the correct answer is it makes your heart pump faster to get blood to your muscles. So if you look at stress in a very evolutionary, pre-human type of way, the main thing is that there's something going on and your body needs to make sure that your entire body is ready to go. So your heart is pumping that blood to get everywhere in your body to make your muscles, to give oxygen to your muscles. So that's basically the idea behind why stress makes your heart race. All right, very cool. Next question, true or false? Your heart gets used to everyday frustrations. So everyday little small stressors, your heart just gets used to putting them up. So it's used to doing it. So this is actually false. So your heart doesn't get used to these kinds of everyday frustrations. That's why stress management techniques are very important. Long-term stress causes a weakened immune system, ulcers, neither or both. Okay, let's see next. Yes, okay. So a weakened immune system is definitely one cause of stress. In fact, the stress hormone cortisol itself has been shown to dampen your immune system. So sometimes when you're in very high stress environments, you can sometimes feel like you're sick. So if you're ever in a very high stress, high tension environment, your body itself might start to feel weak and your immune system is dampened and weakened. So it's really important to balance your mental well-being so that your physical well-being is also doesn't take any hits. What does your liver do when you're stressed? It clears fewer toxins, it makes more bile, it makes more blood sugar, it completely stops functioning. Yes, it does make more blood sugar. So your liver is one of the organs in your body that regulates your blood sugar levels. So while you're stressed, you might actually make more blood sugar because your brain is telling your body that it needs more energy to do any task or any situation. So your liver ends up doing so. Nice job, Mehak. And just so everyone knows, we didn't come up with these questions. Nikita did. So Mehak is seeing these for the first time. Some stress is helpful. True or false? Yeah, for sure. So sometimes stress does help meet your daily challenges and motivates you to reach your goals. But it's about having that balance between your stresses in your life and controlling them. Because sometimes it is good. It is good to be motivated and to have that energy to do things. How do humans typically respond to stress? Yes, so we can talk a little bit about the fight or flight response. So when you're encountering a different object or like an obstacle or something that's going on, you make a really quick decision whether to stay and fight or move in flight. So this has to do with all the different hormones that are related to stress and talking about that decision. But the parasympathetic response is something that you do to calm down your body. Parasympathetic is very calming. Well, a fight or flight response is just like, okay, I need to make a decision right here, right now. Nice job, Mehak, with an answer streak of 3. Cortisol, which is something that I mentioned earlier, is often called, I might have given away this answer earlier. So if you remember what I was saying earlier, you can remind yourself and get this point. So that's correct. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone. How does caffeine intake affect cortisol? So it doesn't affect cortisol, it dampens cortisol's effect, it elevates cortisol's effect, or it gets rid of all the body's cortisol. So it does, that's correct. It elevates the cortisol's effect. Caffeine and stress can both elevate your cortisol levels. So high amounts of caffeine can lead to negative health effects associated with prolonged elevated levels of cortisol. So that's like chronic stress. So too much caffeine can also impact your body's stress levels. If you tend to eat more when you are stressed out, what should you do? Let yourself indulge until the stress passes. Try intermittent fasting. Keep healthy snacks nearby, or restrict yourself to 3 full meals per day. Keep healthy snacks nearby. Yes, that's definitely a good response to this. And especially with my nutrition background, stress eating is definitely something that can affect your appetite, because when you're in these elevated levels of stress, eating or consuming a lot of food can restrict how you eat other meals. So it's important to spread out your food throughout the day. Intermittent fasting is just kind of like a throwaway answer in this case. That's not really something related to stress. And of course, letting yourself indulging until the stress passes can affect your appetite for other meals and everything. So keeping healthy snacks nearby is a really good option. A lot of things like, cut up carrots, vegetables, anything high protein, high fiber. Those are all great healthy options that you can keep nearby, like fruits and vegetables too. If you do need to eat something while you're stressed out, those are some good options to have. Experts recommend that you should exercise for how long each day to gain some stress relief benefits? 15 minutes, 45 minutes, 30 minutes, or 1 hour? Nice. So the answer is 30 minutes. So 30 minutes of high intensity exercise is really good for a lot of different reasons. But one other stress related reason is that it provides some stress relief benefits. So try to get out there for 30 minutes. A really easy way to get some more exercise into your day is to track your steps and to try to reach 10,000 steps every single day. That way you can get a lot of this exercise out just by walking, especially walking after you have a meal. That's another really great way to relieve stress and to also help your digestive system. Last 5 questions here. If overspending stresses you out, what is the best way to immediately address this problem? Get a second job, get an extra credit card, withdraw a set amount of cash once per week, or ask your friends to lend you money. Yes, withdraw a set amount of cash once per week. So this is kind of talking a little bit about the financial aspect of stressing. Sometimes, it's important to have financial literacy and to make sure that you're making proper financial choices. But one way to kind of try doing this out is to withdraw a set amount of cash once per week. We're not financial experts here, but this is just a little bit of, we just want to acknowledge that that is something that causes stress sometimes. How can applying pressure to the area at the base of your middle and pointing fingers reduce stress? It helps improve your lymph node function. It relaxes your joints. It gives you something to do other than worry, or it triggers a specific nerve. It triggers a specific nerve. So there's all sorts of different nerve endings all across our body. And different medicine practices, you're depending on the east or the west, have these kinds of techniques that trigger specific nerves to relieve stress. So try looking into some of those solutions to help your own stress management techniques. Some experts say that to lower stress, you should listen to music that has how many beats per minute? 45 beats per minute, 60 beats per minute, 120 beats per minute, or 180 beats per minute. So 60 beats per minute. So for example, does anyone know or think about it, if you're running or if you're doing some high intensity exercise, you want something that's very high and upbeat. So 120, 180, those are the beats per minute that you want. So you can keep that high pace while you're either running or doing some cardio heavy exercise. But 60 beats per minute is a very steady rhythmic pace. It's not quite as slow as 45, but it's not nearly as fast as something you would do while you're running. So try listening to music. And a lot of the times there's different playlists on YouTube or radio stations that play music that's always at that consistency or always in the same vibe. So try looking for those too. So I see no one gained any points for that last question. Last two questions. This is our second to last question. This is a multi-select question. A common side effect of stress is that you may struggle to fall asleep. Which of the following are habits that can help? Avoid caffeine close to bedtime, avoid meditation at bedtime, avoid electronics close to bedtime, and avoid natural light close to bedtime. Nice. So the two correct answers were to avoid caffeine close to bedtime and to avoid electronics close to bedtime. So all of these things can affect your circadian rhythm, which is the natural sleep cycle that all people have. So avoiding meditation, or hold on. I think this question was worded a little bit differently, but yes, so avoiding caffeine is really important and avoiding electronics is really important because both of those things can keep you awake and stimulate your mind. Instead, you should try to, relax and meditate, avoid natural light to get that, to get yourself into that sleep mode. So this is our very last question. How does laughter help improve your body's response to stress? Does it increase oxygen intake? Does it lower endorphins? Does it counteract cortisol or all of the above? Correct. So it increases oxygen intake. So the more that you laugh, the more air is moving in and out of your body and the more oxygen is flowing through. And the more oxygen you have, the more calm and effective you have. So it's kind of like a breathing exercise. Things like laughing yoga, you don't think about it a lot, but sometimes even just laughing can be as beneficial as some breathing exercises. Alrighty, so that was our Kahoot for the day. So let's take a look at our podium. So whoever that was, they only answered 3 out of the 15 questions. Jorimon got 7 out of 15, and Mehek, I think, is in our first place spot with 10 out of 15 questions answered correctly. Congratulations to everyone who participated. And for those of you who just watched, thank you. I hope you got something out of hearing about all of these different stress management techniques. So introducing Sarodha. Sarodha is a certified college counselor who supports students in the UC and private college admissions. She works at Admission Crews LLC. And without further ado, Sarodha, if you'd like to introduce yourself and get started with your presentation, feel free to do so.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me here. Really excited. What a wonderful program it is to help students reduce their stress during their high school years and beyond. I am a college counselor at Admission Crew, as Kevin has introduced me. I hold a double master's degree in electronics and telecommunication systems and have been an educator for a long period of time. Very passionate about helping our students navigating through the college admissions process. So today my presentation is going to be focused on stress management because that's the topic of discussion today. So I'm going to share my screen. So here we go. It's about stress management today for high school students. I wanted to start off with shocking data, which is related to stress. This research is done by Challenge Success. It's a nonprofit affiliated with Stanford. Graduate School of Education. Denise Pope leads this. And many of you probably have attended these type of sessions that Challenge Success holds. So they're saying that they did a survey of over 250,000 middle and high school students nationwide. And this is the data that they found. They found out that 95% of students are sleep deprived, 77% experience stress-related health symptoms, 63% are constantly worried about academics, 62% are saying that the workload is a major source of stress, and 47% are disengaged or just doing school for the sake of doing it. So these numbers are really scary to see, and I'm really glad that CWC is doing, programs related to stress so that we can help out everybody, right? This is not good numbers. So let's talk, if you want to know more information about their research and what kind of services they provide, you can go to challengesuccess.org. So you guys already are in high school or probably in college, and I don't have to stress out more on what kind of stressors you have already. But if we take a look at it, there are lots of stress going on in high school students because there's pressure of winning competitions and games. There's uncertainty of getting accepted into college of your choice. What kind of majors can you decide? Some students are undecided. They do not know which major they want to apply to. Then on top of that, there's the tests and finals and standardized testing, ACT and SATs. And then there's school project deadlines. And what if I fail a class? And then there's peer pressure, social media, fear of missing out, always being online. And then on top of that, you guys are, going to school during a pandemic. So it is very, very difficult to do classes online as you did prior, but now you're going back to school. So there's a big adjustment there. And then there are health issues and family related issues, probably loss of parents' job or unfortunate death in the family. So there are many, many stressors that are, in your life. So if you kind of categorize them, one is about academics, the other is about peer pressure. Then there's family pressure. Oh, will my child get into the proper college that I want the child to get into? Uncertainty of the future, there's relationship pressures. And on top of that, you're in a pandemic. So it's not helping. So don't be scared. There are many, many options out there to help you. So first of all, you can help yourself. So how can you do that? So I would definitely encourage you. You can see the young man here, very happy because he's got a hold of everything. So invest in your learning. Critical thinking and logic and math, be strong in that. Do academic and non-academic activities around these type of core foundational subject areas. And then don't just go by what friends are telling, just because of peer pressure. Oh, I'm attending this program, or I'm going to do this, doesn't mean that you have to jump in to the bandwagon and do the same thing. Be aware of all the other programs that are out there. Do some research on your own, and advocate for yourself. If you want to do a research program, reach out to a professor, email them directly, and see if there is any opportunity available instead of fretting about, oh my gosh, am I going to get into an internship or am I going to get into a research program? Manage yourself well. You should be motivated and self-driven, and have good work ethics. For example, having good organization skills and time management skills are very, very important, which Kevin and all the college students might be able to give better input about that. And advocate for yourself all the time. When you need help, reach out. Okay, you're not alone. There are many, many resources, which I will talk about in the next slides. Stay away from peer pressure. Don't listen to what other people are doing. Listen to it. But how are you going to use it in your own life is up to you. So just because someone is doing it doesn't mean you are doing the same thing. And when you're really stressed, take deep breaths and practice mindfulness and meditation. It helps. It does help. You have a wonderful resource in your high school for high school students. High school counselors are very, very helpful and very important resource. They give you a context of what type of high school we are and how we compare with other high schools. And it is a wonderful place for safe discussions, difficult discussions that you probably are uncomfortable doing with your parents. So use the resource of high school counselors to talk about things that bother you, and they are always there for you. They will also help you with course selection, what kind of activities you might explore, and college lists. Sometimes high school counselors are overloaded because they have a huge caseload in public schools especially, but it doesn't mean that you cannot reach out to them. They will do their best to help you. And then they also organize college information sessions and fairs, and they also might give you feedback on your essays. The most important thing that they do is write recommendation letters for students while you're applying to college. So in order to know you very well, they really, really recommend students to go meet them at least once or twice a year, if not more. So do meet your high school counselor. They will help you. Your parents are there to help you. Now, how they role model, some parents are probably not here, but parents can also help by keeping smartphones away during family time, enjoying family time together, and then talking about, having an open discussion about what things are bothering you, what are those challenges that you are facing, because your challenges are real. So to have a respectful discussion and having an open mind, they will definitely be able to support you because they are rooting for you all the time. Also, parents are able to get more information for you by attending those events that the high school holds, just like freshman night and junior night and other information sessions. And counselors often hold their sessions as well for parents. So please request your parents to attend those so that they can get pertinent information back to you. Okay. Also, there's another area about going to college. It's a lot of your parents will have to bear the financial cost to help you. So talking about that, having open discussions about that will probably relieve your stress as well. We as admissions counselors at Admission Crew, we also help students because as I mentioned, a lot of students are undecided. They don't know what they want to do in their future. They don't know which standardized test to take. So there's so many questions. Which college do I apply to? So we as counselors, we are certified and we help them to figure out what their strengths are. And we give them a context of, what you are coming from this high school, what kind of things are colleges looking for. So we will give them, and we attend webinars and conferences regularly. So we are very, very well aware of what colleges are expecting out of students. And it's a safe space for difficult discussions. If you cannot talk to your parents about certain things, we do talk to our students about those things that are bothering them, and we give them advice. We also help with college selections, what kind of test prep they would need, summer programs that they can apply to, and creating a college list, and what kind of majors they might apply to, depending on what kind of past experiences they have had throughout the high school years. Also, we talk about importance of college visits, and we do information sessions, both for parents as well as students. And we give them insights on various colleges. Archana and I both, we are college counselors, and we go visit many, many colleges throughout the year and get insights about the programs, the new programs that are coming into colleges, and what are they looking for. For seniors, also, we help with essays. So we do an essay workshop the summer prior to senior year, where we help the students brainstorm ideas and give them feedback on their writing. We never write essays for them. They have to write it on their own, but we will brainstorm ideas. And we help them organize their application timeline. It is a stressful period. So to be able to be well organized and be on top of things, we help them maintain a timeline. And finally, when application when the results start coming in, acceptances are coming in, we have to make a decision of which final college to attend. So we will guide the students on that as well. So that's our job as college counselors, and we do much more. So there are many, many resources out there to help manage stress. What are those? So there are psychologists and therapists. So if you feel that your stress is at a point where it is unbelievably high and you feel that you need help, it is always better to take advice from a professional. So there are psychologists and therapists. You can reach out to your pediatrician and they can refer you. If you prefer online, there are many online options as well, like BetterHelp is a great resource as well for online counseling. As I mentioned, the school counselor is a very wonderful resource. You can always reach out to them and they can also redirect you to the resources that might help you. For study skill habit improvement, for example, organization skills or executive functioning, there are life coaches out there who can help you with managing all of that, how to improve your study skills. And then on top of that, as I mentioned, parents are there and friends who carefully listen. Okay, so it's often a case that everybody in high school is very, very stressed out. So when you go and talk to a friend, probably they're really stressed out, so they don't either know what to do. But sometimes when you talk to friends who are carefully listening, you can come up with solutions. So it's a good resource as well. And then we are here to help you through the college admissions process. If you have questions regarding that, we can always help you. And then if you're struggling with academics, because maybe the class is hard, there are always experienced tutors who can help you with academic support. So reach out to them. Regarding stress management, there are a couple of things that I personally use as well. So one is meditation. Meditation calms yourself down. So you can use beautiful apps like Headspace, Calm, and Insight Timer. Just 10 minutes makes a big difference. So even as a counselor, as an educator, I also do meditation daily. And then when you have a lot of things on your plate, we go by Google Calendar. I mean, everything is in my Google Calendar. All my appointments, all my activities, things that I want to do. And even I add my meditation time into my Google Calendar so that I can get a reminder, oh, it's time to meditate. So you can add that as well. Exercising is very important, as Kevin mentioned. 30 minutes of exercise daily will make a big difference. It reduces cortisol levels and it's really good for your health. So please do that. And Kevin is better at healthy diet, nutrition. He might be able to give you better insights on that, but definitely eating healthy diet and not eating, junk food when you're stressed out is important. And sleeping well. So put away all those blue light emitting devices away at least 30 minutes to an hour before bedtime. You can do some meditation before, calming exercises. Calming down, breathing will allow you to sleep well, because if you sleep well, then your cortisol levels will go down and you will not feel stressed the next day. So these are some of my tips as a counselor. If you have other questions, you can always reach out. This is my email address, and I'm from admission crew. But thank you all for having me, and we can go into questions when you guys are ready.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sora. That was a really great presentation encompassing a variety of topics. And I think it was really helpful for everyone who's either listening right now or will watch this recording later. So you provided a lot of great information. So thank you very much. I think Mehak and we can start off with a little bit talking about our own experiences with the admission process and kind of how we navigated it and where we are right now. I think for myself, obviously it was around 4 years ago, I applied going into 2018. So 2017 was when a lot of my applications were due. So it's been 4 years. So I have a little bit of a little bit of an antiquated take almost. But I think for me, I lived in Cupertino, California. I went to Monte Vista High School. So the college application process started early for a lot of my friends and my peers and my classmates. All of those seminars, like sort of that mentioned from your own high school, are really beneficial for me because I think it provided me a lot of perspective on what I need to do. And I think especially when you're applying to colleges, there's so many resources out there. It's like a travesty of riches where there's just so many that you sometimes get a little bit overwhelmed. So having people like Saroda to guide you through that process, or having people who have gone through that process before was really helpful. So reaching out to your high school college counselors, reaching out to people like Saroda, people who who are older than you who have gone through that process, those three things really help me navigate the admissions process. So how about you, Mehak?
Yeah, so I had my application cycle last year. So during the whole pandemic was when I was applying. And like you mentioned, it was really great where I live in Fremont. So our school had some colleges that would come and visit and talk about their programs and like what they have to offer. And like you said, there's so many colleges to choose from, but then, ultimately you decide where you're going to apply and then just apply and wait for the decisions to come.
So what are some obstacles that you think you faced while going through that process?
I think the majority would be deciding where to apply, because there's so many in the US that you want to decide, okay, where am I applying and is it good for what I want to do, right? So I think narrowing down your list of where you're going to apply, but also making sure that you're having enough time to write your essays and getting all your app ready in time, so enough time to apply and not doing at the last minute that it's due, and getting your recommendation letters if you need to, and all of that.
Correct.
I think just managing it as a whole, like time management wise, I think it's key, because it's easy to get overwhelmed with schoolwork and, writing your essays, figuring out where you're going and all of that. So,
right. You mentioned deciding what you wanted to do. So Saroda, so in your experience, I know that was difficult for me to kind of decide, okay, like this is the major that I want to pursue. This is the field that I want to get into. Ultimately, I did pick biology, but getting to that point was a lot. So what are some things that you recommend for people who are unsure of the field that they want to get into?
Okay, so there are certain surveys that you can do to figure out what kind of areas you are interested in. So I'm going to post that in the chat if anybody wants to use them. One is UScience. You can use the uscience.com. If you go there, you can actually get a survey, and you fill out the survey and it will give you what your strengths are. It's based on Holland Code. So I'm sending this in the chat. So that's one for UScience. And it will give you a detailed, explanation and report about what your strengths are, what kind of majors you might be interested in, what kind of career paths might you be good in. And so we use that. And then besides that, we look at what their interests are. Most of the students who come to us kind of know what subjects they really, really enjoy. So if you enjoy that, then we give them ideas of, that these are the majors that are related to your interests. And then we will guide them through that. There's also the Holland Code test. So I posted that as well. So when students are really, really undecided, it's a good thing to explore on your own. If you kind of like a particular subject, then go out and take some extra classes in that. There are so many classes on edX and Coursera that students can take. And then they can take classes from community colleges. They can take classes from Berkeley and UCLA online and try to see if you like that subject or not. And the truth is, a lot of students go to college thinking that they want to do a particular major, but a lot of students actually change their majors, right? So it's you don't have to be stuck on one particular area. As long as you have an open mind to learn, you're going to do well. So that's our advice of what we do. And then we also have our own surveys that we do to kind of get an idea of what the students are interested in and what they are not interested in.
I think that was a really good point of what you're not interested in. I think exposing yourself to a variety of topics, for me, that was computer science. When I took a Java course in freshman year of high school, I said, okay, this is what I don't want to do. So that really did help. So sometimes, even if you don't know what you want to do, just trying different things and making sure that that's not what you want to do is really helpful. And I think you did bring up a really good point. Yeah, go ahead.
To add on, like the fact that Ms. Saroda mentioned that, you can change your major in college. It's not like what you said to go into, you can go. I think the average student, please correct me if I'm wrong, changes their major 3 times in college. So just because you go in as one, you can come out as a completely different major as long as you know and you're enjoying what you're doing. So it's not always set in stone.
Yeah, and I actually did have that experience myself. I went in thinking, I knew that I wanted to pursue life sciences because I liked biology courses in high school. And I came in as a biology major to UNR. And I decided that I wanted to be a physician assistant and I wanted to get into healthcare. But after my first year and a half, I decided I was really interested in nutrition. I took a nutrition course, which is one of the requirements. And then after that course, my perspective really changed. And I found I really liked that I liked doing science and physical laboratory experiments. But for me, everything related to food was the most interesting. So I found that that was the direction that I kind of wanted to go in. But that was, I really had an open mind with it. But when I didn't decide, I didn't switch my major completely. It worked out in a way where I could have just I added that major and I had already completed several of the requirements. So that's a very good, important thing to remember, to have that open mindset. But I think for me, a lot of the stress kind of goes away when you have a goal or if you have a pathway that you're working towards, because I think a lot of that fear and stress is related to the fear of the unknown, of like, what's going to happen? What am I going to do? So I think if you give yourself that structure of, this is what I want to pursue, this is the ultimate goal, I'm going to go on this pathway, but I know that if the path changes, I'll still be okay. I think that is the most important mindset to have, because your path can change as long as you know what you're working towards. I think a lot of that stress, for me at least, was taken away. Yes. So what kind of support systems did you use throughout your process?
So of course, I had my parents who supported me, of course, throughout the process. But I think working with my friends also helped because we would share similar experiences because we were applying to some of the similar colleges, and we'd be like, oh, like, how are you doing here? Oh, how are we figuring this out, And also, I think school resources to some extent do help. So if you talk to your counselor or other previous students who have graduated from your school, they do help. And of course, having an admissions counselor, that is also helpful. So I think Sarah can touch up more about, as she touched upon that. But I think having a variety of different types of support system is helpful because you get different types of the interaction you can have with them.
Yeah,
so
for
I
sure.
wanted to ask you, since you're applying currently to master's programs, what is the similarities and differences you notice between applying to college versus like a master's program?
Yeah, I think like Sarada mentioned, there's all of these, like she just talked about 3 different tests that you can take to decide what major or like what field you want to do. And I know in high school, you have access to things like Naviance, you have access to things like those college databases that list every single, like there's like 18 different filters for everything from what type of weather you want to what side of the country you want to be in to all of that stuff. There isn't a lot of that for master's programs because not so many people pursue education beyond just their undergrad. And I think I think it might be even, like it depends on if you want to do a specific program or if you just want to go into like things like medical school, dental school, veterinary school. All of these things have their own different facets. And I think for me, the most difficult part right now is the field that I picked, which is food science, is very particular. It's not something like computer science or biology where it's very broad and there's so many programs out there. I looked it up. In California, there are only 5 proper food science programs. So for me, when I looked through the list and I just went through like list after list after list, I was just like, it was so much easier in high school when all I had to do was go to Naviance and just hit 1, 2, 3 and find out the schools that I wanted to apply to. But I think is the biggest difference for me. I only applied to a lot of like public universities, so a lot of them didn't require any letters of recommendation. But right now, every master's program that I've looked at does require a letter of recommendation. So for me, that wasn't so difficult. But 4 years ago, had you asked me, you need 3 professors to write your letter of recommendation, I don't think I could have done it. So those 2 things I think were the biggest changes for me. Like finding the programs is kind of difficult, and then also making connections with your faculty is something that I think I learned to do in college and something that I think I'm pretty good at now than I was back in high school.
Yeah. So what did you change from high school to college to help that become easier?
Right. I think for me, I think it was the uncertainty, a lot of it. So I think I in high school, I was just like, okay, physician assistant, biology, that was kind of like the idea. But now I'm like, I'm very specific. This is what I want to do. I've gone through 4 years. I want to study this topic specifically. I found an interest in it and I want to pursue it further. So I think narrowing it down is something that I did. And more so than that, I think time management is something that I'm still working on. My first application is due on December 1st. And, going through that process this past month has been very hectic, especially with Thanksgiving and all that kind of stuff. So I think time management is something that I'm still learning, but thankfully the rest of the programs all have application dates in February. So now that I've gone through the process now, I know that I'll be, okay, I'm just going to go through. I think as long as you go through the first one, you're like, all the other ones are kind of easy to navigate afterwards. Yeah, I think, yeah, it's definitely been interesting. And I think it's there. I see the similarities. I think a lot of the same stressors are there, like, oh, is this really what I want to do? What do I want to do? But at the same time, I'm also just like, oh, I've been through this. And I'm reassuring myself because 2017 Coven was very, very stressed. And then by the time 2018 rolled around and it was August and I moved into my dorm, everything worked out. So I know that in 6 months, everything's going to work out. So that's something that I'm reassuring myself because I went through that process, and I'm sure Mehek, you went through that process where it was just like, oh no, what's gonna happen? I'm putting my name into all of these different places, but it all works out eventually. So I'm just reassuring myself that stage is gonna come. I'm just working towards that stage.
Yeah, I think one thing to realize that the fear of unknown is great. Like it's big and it's out there, but at a point, everything like works out. Like that's what I realized that like back then in the application cycle, I too was very stressed about, okay, what's going to happen? Because it's just so unknown. But now that I think about it now, I'm like, everything worked out fine. So it's going to be okay.
Yes, exactly. And Sarah, you kind of touched a little bit about this, but I'm curious about a little bit about the social stress because I think that's not something that a lot of people talk about through the application process. Like, yes, academics are really important and making sure all of the logistics are important. But what about like the social environment, the social aspect? What are some things that you notice with your students or people that you work with in the social sphere or like not related to academics?
Yeah, so students often come in saying that I want to attend an IV. And the question is, why do you want to attend the IV? Because it's a brand name, right? So you have to do proper research. All IVs are not meant for everybody. Just because it's a brand name school doesn't mean that it's going to be a perfect fit for any student, right? So having that mindset, because a lot of parents are sometimes, they want their child to go to a very well-known college because it's a social thing, people, oh, where does your student go? And oh, my student is attending this college. And they kind of get pride, I think. But when the students come to us, we give them the realistic picture, saying that looking at this kind of a GPA and this kind of extracurriculars and your interests, this is not a perfect fit. This would be a better fit. So we do surveys to figure out what kind of learning environment would that student actually thrive in. Because some students are really good at when it's a one-on-one, more of interactive than being a little fish in a big pond, as we say, right? Instead, if they go to a smaller college where it's more, more support group and more supportive, and they will thrive better there. So just because there's a big name school out there doesn't mean that you have to go there in order to, because sometimes when they go there, they realize, oh, this is not the right place for me. I'm not in the right place, right? So that's one social pressure that I'm noticing as a counselor. Like most of the students are like, oh, we want to attend a really good school, but a good school, is that school good for you? Is what we help the students figure out. Is it a good fit for you? Because at the end of the day, people will probably want to know, okay, the first day, oh, where did your child get into? But after that, nobody's going to come back and ask after 4 years, what did you actually do in college and how much hard work it was, right, Mehek? Mehek is shaking her head. So at the end of the day, it's all about you. Where would you be happy as a student? And what do you have to do to thrive there? So I wouldn't, as a counselor, I can say that easily, but sometimes students take a lot of stress because of that. What if I can't get into a college, or what if I can't do well in a college? So don't take too much pressure on your own shoulders is what I would recommend. Socially, that's one issue. Another issue is peer pressure. So that pressure is coming from parents, right? Like, oh, you have to attend a good college. The other pressure is peer pressure. Oh, my friends are attending or applying to so many colleges. What if I don't get into the same colleges? For example, I'll give you a real life situation. My son is in college. This is his first year, but most of his friends had decided to apply in different majors. But ultimately, as majority of them applied to computer science, the kids who said that they didn't want to apply to computer science ended up in computer science. And Kevin probably will agree with me. Computer science is the place to be right now, right? But sometimes it's not perfect for everybody. Just because it's out there doesn't mean it's perfect for you. So that's another pressure that students are facing socially about, what my friends are doing and what I'm not doing, or am I doing something wrong? So that's where we come in, you shouldn't be cookie cutter as an applicant or as a student. You should do what you like to do. That makes you unique. So we will, guide the students to make sure that they are not falling into the cookie cutter track and, making themselves unique, because everybody is unique in their own way. All of you have different, interests that nobody else has. And that is what makes you special. So we don't want people to get, confused by other people saying, oh, computer science is the way to go. Because if you do that, you get a job in 4 years, you can work for Google, Apple, and you can buy a Tesla. And that should not be your goal in life, right? For some it is, but it shouldn't be for all, right?
Right.
So that's the social pressure aspect that I'm noticing.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, especially I think both of us, Mehek, you and I both being from Fremont and Cupertino respectively, that was everything that we were surrounded with. And I remember specifically during it was the Spirit Day put on by my high school, where it's just like, oh, wear the college or like the college gear from the university that you're planning on going to. That would be like at the end of the semester. And I was wearing my Wolfpack Nevada UNR t-shirt, and like everybody else is, wearing their UC Berkeley sweater or like their Ivy League sweater. And it was hard because I knew that like I was going to go somewhere that was a fit for me, where I could see myself succeeding. After being in the very pressure cooker, high stress environment of Monte Vista, I sought for something completely different. For example, UNR is one of 2 four-year institutions in Nevada. Like that's it. Like the bar is like very low academically in Nevada, but I think I had so many chances or opportunities to succeed. And I think I'm really happy with my decision because of all the different things that I did. Like Saurabh had mentioned, like I was able to get into student government at UNR. I was able to start my own clubs at UNR. I did an RA right now at the dorms. I was able to go through all these different leadership opportunities that I honestly don't think I would have been able to do had I gone to any other university with a lot of other really high achieving, high academically focused individuals. So I think picking the right space for me was really important, but there was, I wouldn't say shame, but there was definitely like, oh, that's where you're going, like that type of attitude. I definitely was surrounded by, even by teachers that I told that I was attending UNR. So, that's definitely something that's hard to navigate.
Yeah, no, I agree with Kevin. It's kind of like you should choose where you think you're going to be the fit rather where you should go, because it's this place you're going. So like, for example, currently like right now where I attend, I'm really happy that I chose which school that I'm going to. But at the same point, it's kind of like, it's not like, it's kind of like, oh, like it's hard to explain, but it's kind of what you said of how like, oh, people are going to XYZ school and you're going to this school. So it's kind of like that thing. But I had another question that I wanted to ask. So personally for me, I wasn't able to do this because, the pandemic, but I believe you mentioned that people should go and visit colleges. So do you mind touching a bit more upon like what you should look when you go for a campus tour, and like how do you know if like based on the campus tour, like if that's the right place for you to attend?
That's a good question. So definitely, because of the pandemic, a lot of students were not able to go and visit. But now as things are opening up, definitely we recommend students to go visit. During spring breaks is a good time to go. And we kind of create a college list so that they can go and visit those colleges. We do ask them to go and visit the library. Go talk to students there on campus to get the vibe. Do you want, if you're a very social person, you don't want to be interacting with only people who are only focused on academics. You want to have that social life as well. So when you're going on campus when school is in session, you kind of get an idea of, what kind of people are around you. You will get the vibe. So it's very important. Go talk to professors, sit in a class, try to get an idea of what kind of, courses are available. Talk to the admissions counselors there. What are they expecting? And just have a good time there. Eat at the cafeteria. Try to see what kind of food options there are. Check out the dorms, because that's where you're going to live for 4 years. So, having a tour, having a structured tour is a very good idea, just to get input about everything that you now online, because of the pandemic, students were using online tours, but there is no replacement of actually going on campus and getting a feel for yourself. So highly recommended to do college tours. It is also demonstrated interest for certain colleges. So they want to see, are you really interested to come to our college? Have you actually visited? Have you taken any college tours online? What have you done to show your interest that you really want to come to our college? So it is a part of demonstrated interest for private colleges, especially. UCs don't care much because UCs have a lot of applicants. So whether you come or not doesn't matter. But private colleges, they do want to see that you are interested to attend. So that's a way that you show that as well.
I think that's definitely a good point. More so, like, for me, I visited 2 universities before I visited UNR and sent it together. But when I went to UC Santa Cruz, which is the closest UC to the Silicon Valley Bay area, I decided not to apply. Like, as soon as I did I left the tour 30 minutes early because I could not live or walk in this forest. Like, I walked through the first time and I was just like, I thought this would be by the beach. I thought I would be close to the ocean, but I walked through and we left the tour within the first 30 minutes. I was just like, no, I'm not applying here. So it's really important, because if you go through in your whole mind, if you're like, oh, these are the 3 schools that I'm going to apply, and you go there and you're like, the environment, the physical environment itself is such a turnoff for you, then what are you going to do there for 4 years? So that's just a silly extreme example, but I did not because it's a land grant institution, 51% of it had to remain undeveloped, and they literally built it into a redwood forest. So I decided I can't do this. But that's just one example of why it's really important to go physically, or have an idea of what your day-to-day life is going to be like if you attend that university.
Yeah, I think it's kind of along a kind of a stretch to put it that way, but essentially that's your home for the next 4 years. So, if you think about it, if you don't like snow, don't go to school. That's going to be in the snow, because that's going to be where you're going to be, right? So I think especially in my year, it was difficult. And now even to some extent, to actually physically go there and see how it is in person, right? But if you can, it's a good idea, I guess. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and I just want to take a moment. We're wrapping up. We're towards the end. If anyone has questions, if any of our audience has questions that they want to ask us, ask about our experience, feel free to do so. We have a few minutes to do so. If not, we can kind of just go towards our closing remarks or closing overall wrap up statements. But yeah, I think for me, it's just when you're going through this process, know that it's going to work out in the end. I think that's the biggest thing. Everything's going to work out. Whatever decision you make ultimately 6 months from now, 8 months from now, a year from now, when you're actually at your university, it's all going to be fine. It's going to work out in some extent. So have that assurance. And then also know that don't let that not motivate you to go through every process at the same time, but also understand that your pathway can change, and being open to that pathway is really important. Those are the 3 things that I think I experienced then, I'm experiencing now, and I know I'm going to experience moving forward. How about you, Mehek? What do you think is your wrap up statement? Because you just went through this process and you're almost done with your first semester.
Yeah, I think the main thing is don't worry too much. I know it's easier said than done, but don't worry too much about, oh, am I going to get in here? Am I going to get in there? Just do your application. I mean, you did what you could, right? So just do it and then wait until the time comes around. And when it does, do what you think is right for you, where your heart says yes. So, just think through what you're doing. And then lastly, take help. from people if you need it. Like, don't be afraid to reach out and ask people for help, whoever that may be, because that doesn't hurt. And I think you can easily get overwhelmed, but if you just take a breather and ask for help, then you should be fine.
Yeah, very well said, both of you. My input would be relax. Everything is going to be okay. At the end, there are many resources out there. Just as Mahak said, reach out if you need help. There are many caring people. You have your parents, you have your counselors, you have us if need be, and we're all there to support you. So there is no need to, worry too much, because worrying kind of doesn't take you anywhere. Taking action, getting help from others is what is going to relieve your stress. So try to figure out how to relieve stress, breathe a lot, meditate, exercise, have fun. It's a learning process. Life is a journey. It's not a sprint. So, everything is going to fall into place, as Kevin mentioned.
Yes, for sure. So I think with that, we've crossed the hour mark. So thank you so much, Sarada, for your input. I think it was a really great session. I think we got a lot of great discussion, and you had a really great representation that people are going to look back and see all the great information. Thank you, Mahek, for providing your input and your feedback.
Thank you for providing your input as well. And for Sarada for providing useful information to anyone who's currently applying. I think this is the season, so it'll be really helpful for people to utilize all the tips.
Thank you very much for having me.